DFG's Corner. This is DFG, the man with the golden voice, the lady's choice, and of course, smooth as a Rolls Royce. I'm coming to you live from the 571 where I'm having fun and I'm getting things done. Tonight's show came to me from Chocolate Pearl. Um, she wanted to talk about the different generations and what's different and what's the same. So well, I want to talk about. I got a little video I want to show, but before I do that, I want to introduce you to Chocolate Pearl, my favorite girl. What's going on, Chocolate Pearl? You there, Chocolate Pearl? I guess she can't hear me. What's going on, Big Al?
Big Al is fine and dandy like peppermint candy.
That's as long as it's not out the church lady's purse, because you know that got to be having lint on it.
Oh yeah.
And also as usual, it's the rest of the fam. We got Miss Kim. We got Miss Kim on there. We got Miss Nikki on YouTube Live. We're live on Instagram Live, Rumble Live, TikTok Live, Facebook Live, and a lot of other places live. So if you want to get on the show, just let me know. I will send you the link, and you can join. You can join us in the merriment. But right now, I'm going to switch over to share this video with you about generations. If I can be smarter than the equipment, give me a second.
I couldn't hear you at first, so I had to turn it up.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now.
Okay, it's about as far as up as it's gonna go. How are you doing, Chocolate Pearl?
I'm blessed, still stressed, but I'm still highly favored.
That's what's up. That is definitely what's that is definitely what's up.
My children claim they're going to come on tonight.
All
Shall
right, if
see.
they do, they do. If they don't, we still gonna go on with the show. Now I'm gonna start this video off.
Generational Shifts opening visual. Timeline animation with year markers from 1940 to 2020. Soft music and workplace images fading in and out. How has the American workplace transformed from 1940 to 2020? Let's explore the practical implications of these generational shifts. Work norms have evolved dramatically. In the 1940s, loyalty and long tenure were expected, with stability highly valued. Today, workers seek mobility, skill development, and flexibility. While older generations prize security, younger ones now look for purpose and growth. Communication also changed from formal, in-person meetings and phone calls to digital-first tools like email, instant messaging, and social platforms. Managers must now adapt to different feedback styles and expectations. Employers today must balance the experience and institutional knowledge of older workers with the digital fluency and change-oriented mindset of younger employees. This means designing policies that support mentorship, reskilling, and flexible work arrangements. Silent generation per traditionalist 1940s-1960s, shaped by scarcity and national service value, loyalty, authority, and long tenures. Baby boomers, born after WWII, driven by ambition and teamwork, adapted to new tech but still value face-to-face for key decisions. Generation X, raised in uncertain times, they prize independence, work-life balance, and are comfortable bridging traditional and modern approaches. Millennials grew up as the internet became mainstream, seek purpose, rapid learning, flexibility, and bring digital-first expectations to work. Generation Z, the most digitally immersed, they want personalized career paths, skills training, inclusive employers, and lightning fast, visual communication. Understanding these generational differences enables workplaces to create environments where all employees thrive. The key, embrace change, value every perspective, and cultivate a culture of continuous learning.
Now that's what's up. Let's talk about the silent generation. The silent generation was before World War II, and they were born in the late 19 teens to 19 about 1945, 44, 45. Now this was in my this was my grandparents' generation. Some people it's their great grandparents' generation, and some people it's their parents' generation. I know for Miss Kim, at least for Miss Kim and Big Al, their parents were silent generation people. So in talking about silent generation, Chocolate Pearl, what do you remember about our grandmothers?
I remember our mother's mother was such a sweet, hardworking, um, gentle little woman. And she really didn't speak much. But when she spoke, you listened, of course. But she didn't really speak much, and she was funny. Now, our dad's mother, I do remember, she was stern, no holds bar, will kill a man over her children and grands. Uh, was she quiet? No, she was a loud woman, but hardworking, loved her family. So I don't know. If her because her and her grandma Frances and grandma Betty's birthdays was on the same day, but I think they were several years difference.
About 6 years.
Yeah, 6 years difference. And so there was no gentle giant with our father's uh mother, but it was a, you know, difference in our grandparents, put it that way. That's what I remember.
Yeah, yeah. I remember neither one of them took any mess, but our father's mother was well. They had different upbringings. Our father's mother had 10 children, nine surviving, and she had them from the age of 14 to about 32, 33. So she had to be tough. She had to be
Mhm.
tough. Our mother's mother had three daughters, well, three and a step that we called that was our aunt anyway. Um, she was she was more she was more professional driven. She had a great job that she worked at for years until she had to retire. She did get accepted to Northwestern University, so she had brains, and she did her best, and she was married twice, as was our father's mother, but they came up during the depression, so they had a way of living. And I know Big Al said that last week about his parents that they came up during the depression, so they had to learn how to make a lot with a little. Your parents were a silent generation, Big Al. So what do you think?
Well, on my mother's side and my father's side, the women typically were stay-at-home moms where they raised the family. And like your family, they had a lot of children, 13, 14, 15 kids. And the wife generally stayed in the home. My dad wanted my mom to do the same, but she wanted to teach, so she taught school. She was popping out babies. She had eight of us back to back to back, would deliver a baby and go right back into the classroom. So my dad worked at a plant, and his father worked on the railroad. So uh, the mother was pretty much the disciplinarian because my dad spent so many hours at the plants, and he had those weird hours where he worked 3 to 11 and worked what he called the dog, where he worked from 11 until 7. So my mom, the worst whipping I got, I got from my mom. And she kept us all, the seven boys, and one girl kept us all straight. So
And when were your parents born? What year?
my mom was born in 1930, and my dad was born in 1921. So he was 9 years older than her. And typically, older men would marry younger women, at least in my community and from what I saw. So him being 9 years older was not the norm. There were normally 12, 15, 20-year differences between the men and their wives. So it's almost like, uh, what do you call it, pedophilia legally, because older men were looking for younger wives. And if you look at the movie, the one with Oprah Winfrey, what was that? Purple. Oh no, The
The
Color
color
Purple.
purple.
Yeah, The Color Purple. So that was what I visioned as a young boy growing up. Older men marrying younger women, and so I'm just happy to be here.
And I got my day one online. He just came. I asked him to come on and talk. Um, my boy, the Ice Lord. What's going on, Ice?
What's going on, DFG? How is
Hey,
everybody
man.
doing?
Hey, it's great. It's great. You know, it's always great to have you on. Now, your grandmother was born in 1908.
Correct.
It way in she from Mississippi, not Mississippi. She from Mississippi.
Indeed. Indeed.
And you know, a lot of times, you know, you would tell us stuff, but you know, we as city kids really didn't understand what she went through.
That's
And
the truth. Yeah.
I didn't understand until I was older and understood, you know, why, you know, you definitely didn't say the N word in your house. You didn't even say Negro. Like that's too close. But tell us how was your grandmother and what impact did she have on you growing up?
I'm sorry, you cut out for a little while. I think you were asking what influence my grandmother had on me.
Yes.
Uh, she shaped a lot of my mindset, being that she had to endure what she endured, bringing up her siblings and that time. Um, she had to deal with the racism and the fact that she had so little education, formal education. Uh, she just taught us how to deal with adversities and difficulties and still hold your head up high.
Definitely, definitely. I love me some Miss Hawkins. She was a
Yeah.
great woman. She was a great woman, and you know she was my grandmother, just like like my
Oh yeah.
grandmother was your grandmother.
Indeed.
Miss Kim, your parents were silent generation. What can you say how you know they had a great spread of children also? How did that affect you growing up?
Oh, well, by being the youngest of nine, I'm the ninth child. My father was married before, and him and his first wife had six kids. And when he met my mom, she already had a daughter. So when she married my dad, she had two more, me and my brother Ronald. So my mom well, she used to work, but when she got pregnant with me, my dad asked her, he told her she didn't have to work anymore. She can, be at home. He owned his own business. He was a plumber and electrician. So, yeah, that's kind of how I grew up. out there. Excuse me, I took some cold medicine, so I'm losing my train of thought. But we were, we were a close knit family, and I'm saying were because some of us now that they are gone on, we're not as close as we used to be. Because my mom, she was the one that, like Big Al said, she was the more disciplinary. She kept us all in line. And my dad was the one that always went out to work. She stayed home. She cooked 3 meals a day. This woman ironed everything, including this man boxer. So she was a very caring woman. I saw how she truly took care of her man. And my dad, my mom didn't even have to go out and buy grocery. She made the list, and daddy would always go out and buy grocery. So that's kind of how I was brought up. So it instilled in me just how to, even though I made some mistakes coming up on picking and choosing who was in my life, but I know from watching my parents and how they cohabitated and got along, every day wasn't always a great day, but they always knew how to bring it back together. And they did a lot of stuff together. So I had a pretty decent childhood coming up. I did not know my grandmothers because they were all deceased, but I did know my grandfathers.
And how? What years were your parents born?
Oh wow. Dad was 1928, and he was like about 7 years older than mama. And her birthday is tomorrow, and she would have been 93.
Okay, okay. So yeah, I mean, they're definitely silent generation. DJ Dabs, were your parents boomers or were your parents silent generation?
Okay, so my mom was born. I was just trying to remember. She was before the silent generation. She was that whatever that first generation was, they call it.
The greatest generation.
Greatest generation. And my dad was um he was probably about the opposite of Big Al's, 9 years younger than my mom. So um and he was born in 33.
So what about that? What was what did they impart to you in your life, and how did they affect your life?
Well, my dad was in the Marine Corps, so uh, for the most, well, actually, I was gonna say he was gone. Actually, he wasn't really gone a lot, because we did a lot of traveling. I remember, um, even at the, even at my younger days, uh, we would travel across the country and stuff that I remember, because he moved from there. He was moving back and forth from California to Washington for a few years, because my mom they met in Bremerton, Washington, and her dad owned the house there. I never got a chance to meet my grandparents really. I think I met my grandfather once. They were in Mississippi. And he was from Mississippi. She was from Louisiana, and during his military days, he was, like I said, we did a lot of traveling back and forth for California, because we stayed at the military base in California, and then a year or two we drive back up to Washington, stayed there a few years, because I was born in California. Well, my sister before me was born in Camp Lejeune. There was 9 of us total, um, and my brother after me was born in Washington, and then my sister after him was born back in California. So I know we was traveling back and forth quite a bit, and so I remember, um, he was very, I guess, a very astute gentleman. He was a Marine Corps, so and I can remember times when we travel. In order to go somewhere, stay somewhere, he'd have to put his military uniform on so we can get a hotel. I remember them days, but
Okay, that's interesting. Your dad had a military background. They were both, um, most of our most of our grandparents and parents were born in the South.
Yeah.
My great grandmother on my father's side was from
Bluffton.
what's the name of that town?
Bluffton.
Outside of Beaufort, South Carolina.
Bluffton.
Bluffton. Bluffton, South Carolina, and my great great grandmother on my mother's side was from Norfolk, Virginia. So they came from the South. They both came up north. My mother's mother was born in New York City. My father's mother was born in Bluffton. um, a lot of us, we used to go down. We used to go down from up north down south in the summertime, and it would or our cousins would come up and so we kind of understood what was it, but I was a little boy when my great grandmother passed, both of them on both sides. But they were born in the 1800s, so they were like a generation and a half from slavery. So it was like and they grew up during Jim Crow and all of that stuff. So it was like no, and so our parents had to grow up with that. Now, I know Big Al's a boomer, a baby boomer. What was the difference between the greatest generation and your generation and your kids are Gen X?
Right. Well, I think the biggest difference is the value system. For me, I was very frugal with my money. I drove cars for as long as I could drive them until the wheels fell off. I believed in saving and investing. My children are more materialistic. If they want a Beamer, they're going to go buy a Beamer. Uh, they want big houses. They want things right now, and they're not willing to wait and sacrifice. So I think the biggest difference between my generation and my children are the value systems. It's that microwave mentality. I want it right now. And they're not really focused on saving for the future for their children. And my parents were pretty much like me. They stayed in jobs for a career. They were very frugal. They made sure that we had the basic necessities that we needed, but they were savings. They did insurance policies so that, you know, when they transitioned, that it would not be a burden on the family. So they did a lot of things to prepare their children, being myself and my siblings, to be able to survive and to provide some small generational wealth or generational impact in terms of finances. I've done the same for my children, but they don't seem to think that way. They think grandpa and grandma should take care of their children's education, and they spend their money on Mercedes and BMWs.
Mm.
And that's strange because
Where they do
I'm
that
I'm
at?
also I'm Gen X, and my parents really didn't, and that was the thing. Most Gen X parents didn't teach us how to work with money or make money work for us. We had to kind of figure that out on our own. And the biggest thing about that is that um, while we learned, our kids kind of suffered for that because we really didn't understand how to save and how to invest. And we ate a lot of struggle food because we didn't know any better. um, I see my niece and nephew are in here as well as um, they're my nephew's a millennial, my niece is Gen Z, and I got my boy the chef in here and he's Gen Z. Um, we didn't really Gen X was kind of one of that sandwich generation, to where we knew enough about the Great Depression wasn't too far from us, and we know enough about computers that we're not totally lost with them. But
We know,
in that, you know, depending on how much money your parents left you, that you tried to do better for your kids, and unfortunately, um, Gen Gen Z and Gen Alpha are going to be worse off than we were as Gen Xers, and they're a lot worse off than baby boomers, because there's no there's no job stability. Like you said, Big Al, your parents worked at probably the same place, until they couldn't work anymore, and that was just how it was. You lived in the same town, you met the same people, you did the same thing, and as early boomers, you guys were the first ones to really get up and go and move places. Now I know your vocation took you to other places, but you went to college. You probably said, okay, if you wouldn't have lived in your hometown, you'd probably lived in Baton Rouge or New Orleans or something like that, somewhere in the South Atlanta. You would have spread your wings. But Gen X was the first generation to where we didn't stay in one place. We moved from place to place to place, and although we always knew where home was, now as we are older, none of my day ones that I grew up with live in the same. Actually, none of them live in the city anymore, in New York City anymore. Everybody lives, away from New York City. Where
You
our
got one.
parents,
Macho still
where our
lives.
no, I'm
no,
talking about
Macho moved.
my day ones, not my
Oh,
siblings. I got one sibling lives
Macho
in New York
moved.
City.
no. Oh, Macho moved?
Yeah, Macho
He's
lives upstate now.
upstate New York now.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Yeah.
No big deal. No big deal.
But I was hoping he'd come on, but
You know he wasn't coming on.
I know, but I had to ask.
Yeah.
But the big thing was that one thing our parents did do was tell us to get out of the projects. It was
Yep.
like, when we were younger, people used to be glad when people left the projects. It's like, oh, you leaving the
Mm-hmm.
projects? Yeah, yeah, great for you.
Mm-hmm.
As we got older, and between when the millennials was there, it was kind of, they want to stay in the projects. And it was like, why do you want to stay in the projects? Because it was easier, because that's all they knew.
Yeah.
But us, we were all trying to get out of there. And not to say the projects was bad, but it was the projects, and we knew we had, in order to do something better, we had to be better, and we had to leave where we had. Everybody chased jobs, and Gen X is probably gonna be the last generation to be able to get a job, work 20 to 30 years, and retire from that job and get a pension.
Yeah.
That's the
Just to
thing. Gen X, when we grew up that once you got it, like you said earlier, once you got a job, you stayed on it. You wanted longevity with that job. I've actually had a boss, younger than I am, and she told me she only stays on a job 4 years.
Mm.
It doesn't make a difference how much education she has and how much experience she has. She says she only stays on a job 4 years.
and why is that?
She likes change. I thought back in the day when we were being raised and we had to go to they don't do that anymore now, but we had to go to job fairs, and that job fair actually taught you. They didn't just say, okay, fill out these applications or leave your resume. They taught you how to go through a interview. They taught you how to do your resume. They you did how to dress, how to talk, how to act. That's how we grew up. Now
But
it's
those programs were, but Pearl, the issue is that those programs got stripped away in the 80s.
Yeah.
yeah.
Reagan took that.
Yeah.
So
But
he
what
had.
I'm saying is that I tried to pass that down to my children, what I had learned about what I just discussed.